Now, Matthew chapter 5. There is really no part of the gospel that you can say is more important than the other or this or that. But Matthew chapter 5, which is the Sermon on the Mount, probably one of the greatest historical events to ever take place. The master sits down on a hill, this big grassy mountain, and you have hundreds of people out there just following him around everywhere, watching him give sight to the blind, and people with who can't walk, they're running around now, jumping around, praising him, the miracles that he's performing. And this is the first time he sits down and really gives a speech. So this speech is not just a speech to me, and this is just my perspective. This entire next two chapters is an elaboration on the actual Ten Commandments. Everything that he talks about in here is echoed throughout history, from the Ten Commandments through Levitical law, all the way up until he gives this speech. So nothing is left out. I think the only difference is that if you look at the Ten Commandments and the way that the Father spoke to Moses and those people, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And it is kind of human nature that when somebody tells you can't do something, or that you better not do something, or don't push that button, or don't pull that handle, we kind of tend to do it, So it was always my interpretation since I was a young man that Yeshua came and ministered to us. In other words, he took us all under his arms and talked to us and treated us and taught us like children. He speaks to us like we're babies. But instead of from the fatherly point of view with the finger, he's telling us from a loving point of view. So as we get into this, you guys will see what I'm talking about. Here we go. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who came before you. Now, throughout all of those, you hear the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not murder. Blessed are those who are merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Not only does he tell you not to do it from the opposite way, but he also tells you what your reward is for not doing it. Do you understand? So as we go through the rest of chapter 5, you will realize it's actually God just elaborating on his original instructions for us, but showing us those same things in a very, very loving, nurturing, fatherly manner. And that's what we have to understand about our high priest, the Hamashiach, is that his love goes deeper for us than just our words. People could tell you, oh, Jesus loves you so much. He loves you so much. He went through all this stuff for you. But unless you truly try to connect your heart with what he's telling you, you'll never really see or understand that love in the way maybe he intended you to. Disciples in the world. So yet again, we go through another section where he's specifically talking and giving instructions to disciples. He didn't say just his disciples at the time. We have to understand that everything Yeshua says is timeless. It's timeless. It is just as good and means just as much for us 2,000 years later as it did to the people who were sitting there listening to him speak these words. Timeless. Okay? You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? What does that mean, right? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. If he's telling you that you are the salt of the earth, right? In other words, that's a very important thing, right? Salt is important. And if you go back through Levitical law, you will see God talks about salt. He instructs them to handle salt in a certain way, salt your foods a certain way, every meal, all those kinds of things. I'm not claiming to be an expert on Levitical law, but something that I remember. So salt, we are made of salt. Our physical bodies come from the earth, right? But we're not just a pile of dirt. Salt separates from the earth. Salt is something that is tasty. It's a spice, right? So if we are the salt of the earth and we lose our saltiness, what good are we? So in other words, if you're his disciple and you're claiming to be his disciple, but you don't really have any fire to do his will, to spread his gospel, to do the things he's asking you to do, then what good are you? Then you're really good for nothing other than to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men, right? You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Does that make sense? If you are his disciple, you are a light of the world. So in other words, you should not hide yourself. If you are his follower, you shouldn't just stay in your room and just be like, oh God, take care of me. You should be a light to the world. That's what he's telling you. Okay? Nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Exactly. The light that you possess within you as one of his disciples is the Holy Spirit. It is the gift of the Father. It is Yeshua's example, the Word of God, all of those things. You're not supposed to hide it. You're supposed to let it shine as his disciple. Okay? Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Exactly. Let his light shine through you. And he'll tell you how. Okay? Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or stroke shall pass from the law until all is accomplished. There are many Christians out there, many pastors, many churches, many sects, many gangs, all that kind of stuff that teach that we do not need to pay attention to Levitical law, the law of Moses, the 10 Commandments, all those types of things, that all we need to do is just believe and follow Yeshua, and that's it. Okay? You got to remember one thing. Yeshua set the example for us. Did Yeshua follow the law, or did he break the law? As a matter of fact, if you want to take it deeper, like he's about to tell you when we get into it, Yeshua is the law. The physical, incarnate, spiritual, incarnate law. And he's showing you how to live, okay? But he's telling you he didn't come to abolish the law. Okay? He came to fulfill it. And anyone, okay, who annuls the least of the commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. He didn't say if you were a believer and you're not teaching that correctly that he's going to send you to hell. But what he's saying is if you annul the law and you teach others to do the same, that you will be least in the kingdom of heaven. We really have no idea what the kingdom of heaven is going to be. But like I tell my kids all the time, I don't know if there's a cleaning crew, a janitorial crew up there, but I really wouldn't want to scrub floors for eternity. You know what I mean? Have respect for the law. That's God's word. It all combines. It's something that goes together. Think of it like a motor and a transmission. You don't have one without the other. The motor can spin all day long, right? But unless you got a transmission, everything else, you're not going to go anywhere. So there you go. He's telling you as his disciple, do not teach people that the law is annulled. It is not. For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, why does he say that? Because the scribes and the Pharisees speak the law, but do not follow it. Right? You can't say and not do. Yeshua is a man of action. The Messiah is a Messiah of action, not of words. So continuing on in chapter 5. we're at personal relationships. This is a section where the Almighty makes some comparisons. He brings up Levitical law, old school commandments, and then he basically elevates them and takes them from a spiritual or from a physical level and physical laws to the spiritual. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. You have heard that the ancients were told, you shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court. And whoever says to his brother, you good for nothing, he shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. And whoever says, you fool, he shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery hell. Therefore, if you are presenting your offering at the altar, and when you're there, you remember that you have some beef against your brother, you better just leave your offering there and go home and reconcile with your brother, and then come back and give your offering on the altar. So what he's saying is, old school life was all about physicality. If somebody did something to you, you could do it back to them. But there really was no spirituality in that sense. You understand what I mean? Everything was physical. You did something physical, there was a physical response. But there really wasn't a lot of spirituality back then. And I just think that was because a lot of the people needed to learn from first. So God took his time on teaching. And now when Yeshua came, people had already been under the law for 1400 years. And it was time for us to be elevated to a new level and take it from the physical to the spiritual. So he's saying the law would say that you shall not commit murder, but he's saying don't even be angry. Okay? The law is telling you don't murder somebody, but he's saying don't even be angry. Because even if you're angry with your own brother, I'm not going to accept your offering. So carrying around any anger with anyone whatsoever is something that as a disciple of his, we should not do. I don't know if my explanation really clears that up for you, but basically he's taken, like I said, the physical law and he's upping it. And we'll get to more of that. Here we go. Make friends quickly with your opponent at law while you are with him on the way, so that your opponent may not hand you over to the judge, and the judge office will hand you over to be thrown into prison. And then you're never going to get out of there until you pay everything back. That one used to confuse me because I wasn't quite sure what he meant. I used to think that he meant, are you supposed to kind of kiss up to the person and just be like, oh, yo, you know? But no, that's not what he means. In other words, as you're on your way to court, even until the moment you get there, try to reconcile what you've done wrong. It doesn't need to go to trial. It doesn't need to have somebody judge you, guys. You're supposed to settle it on your own. So if you got beef with that person and he's taking you to court, you know, instead of preparing yourself to defend yourself in court, you should be trying to apologize and make things right, even on the way to court, all the way until you get there. So it's deeper than that. You just really got to kind of look at it from that point. Okay? Now, here's another one. This is a very good one. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery, right? But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So, once again, Yeshua is taking a physical matter and he's upping it. So he's saying not only should you not go out and physically cheat on your wife, but you should not even think about cheating on your wife. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you think about cheating on your wife, you're cheating on her. So what he's letting us know is that there is no difference between intention or thought and physical action, because the reality of our existence is that we are spiritual beings. We're only in this physical realm for a little while. But everything we do, everything we think, has a spiritual consequence. So he's upping the law. He's upping the commandments. He's easing off of the physicality of them, but he's upping them to the spiritual level. You understand? So he expects us as his disciples to do the same thing, to up our program. You know what I mean? Okay. If your right eye makes you stumble, tear it out and throw it away from you. For for you to enter into the kingdom of heaven with one eye. Now, he doesn't mean to physically stab yourself in the eye and pop it out. But what he's saying is that if you know something is going to cause you problems, just get rid of it. If you know that looking on social media every day and seeing girls or alcohol or money or gambling or whatever the case may be is going to be an issue, then don't look at it. Get rid of it. Okay? Be done with it. It's better to go in, just frustrated because you're trying to keep yourself on that path, you know what I mean? And to go in without having all of that than to go in with it just messing you all up. So if your eye offends you, pluck it out. If your right hand offends you and causes you to stumble, cut it off for the same purpose. If you know that you're going to do no good, if you go to that place, or you're going to do no good if you're by yourself, or you're going to do no good if you drink, get rid of those. Get rid of it. Be done with it. Then don't go to the bar. Then don't go to the store to buy anything, right? Don't go somewhere where you can get into physical altercations. So you have to manage yourself. It's about self-control, knowing what you can and cannot deal with, and making sure that you cut it out of your life. That's what he's telling us. Okay. Let's see. It was said, whoever sends his wife away, let him give her a certificate of divorce. So in Levitical law, Moses permitted a man to divorce his wife. If he had a reason, he would give her a certificate of divorce. Okay? But here, once again, Yeshua is taking something physical and he's upping it. All right? So he says this: I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife, except for the reason of unchastity, makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So that means you do not have permission to divorce your wife. Back in those days, if whatever she did you didn't like, you could just divorce her. Now, no. Unless she basically cheats on you, or unless your husband basically beats you, cheats on you, things like that, God will not see that you are divorced. He will not. And if you go on and start dating somebody else, you're causing, not only are you committing adultery, but you're causing them to commit adultery also because they're dating you. So when it comes to divorce, just make sure you're marrying the right people. If we're marrying the right people, there's no reason to get divorced, right? But once again, something that was very physical back in those times, Yeshua ups it to a spiritual level. Okay? All right. Again, you have heard that the ancients were told, you shall not make false vows, but shall fulfill your vows to the Almighty. But I say to you, make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. You shall not make any oath, not by your own head even, for you cannot even make one hair on your head white or black. So let your yeas be yea, and your nays be nay. In other words, God doesn't want to hear your promises. Oh, I promise, I swear, if you do this, all that, that. He doesn't want to hear it. If you're going to do something, and you say you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, and you know you're not going to do it, just say you're not going to do it, and don't do it. Anything above this is evil, right here in the scriptures. Right here. Be a person of your word, period. If you told your mom you're going to take out the trash, if you told somebody you're going to pay them back, if you said you were going to be there at a specific time or whatever the case may be, if you make promises to your kids, make sure you honor them. Because anything other than that is evil. And on the flip side, if you know you can't, then just don't agree to doing it, period. Don't do it. All right? You have heard that it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, do not resist an evil person, but he who slaps you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. People get confused on that. It doesn't mean that if you're a believer in Yeshua, you're just supposed to let people push you around. That's not the case. As a matter of fact, we're supposed to be warriors, okay? We're warriors, and being a warrior doesn't always mean that you're physically fighting and murdering and slaughtering. There is such a thing as spiritual warfare, all right? There is going to come a time when we are all supposed to surrender and follow Yeshua's footsteps to our deaths, for sure. But until that day comes, we're supposed to be strong and warriors for him. What he's talking about here is not somebody just, somebody running up and just beating the heck out of you for nothing. It was in case you like get into, okay, so let's say you're getting into an argument with somebody from a different faith, and it starts getting heated and they slap you. Well, go ahead and slap me again. It's a principle thing. It's supposed to show them that as a follower of Yeshua, you are bigger than that. You are bigger than them. You serve a bigger purpose than they do, and you don't need to lower yourself down to slapping them back. So if they want to slap you again, go ahead. Here's my other cheek. So it's a statement of honor, not to be mistaken with a statement of weakness, okay? Now, whoever forces you to go 1 mile, go with him too. Give to him who asks of you. Other gospels say, give to all those who ask of you. God didn't say give to them sometimes or give to him, but don't give to them because they don't. No, he said give to whoever asks of you. That's just important as every other teaching that he gives to us, okay? All right. Do not turn away from him who wants to borrow from you. If you know somebody wants to borrow something from you, give it to them. And like he said, do not expect repayment. Don't do it. Give without thinking of getting in return. All right? You've heard what it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. How many of us are going to be able to do that here in the near future as people start to turn their backs on us? How many? We'll see. But it's one of the things he commands us to do. As a matter of fact, it's what he did. Remember that. Remember. All right? So that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven, for he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. He sends his rain on the righteous and the wicked. In other words, time has to go on. Okay? And he shows mercy on everyone, whether you're good or bad. Everyone gets the same treatment. But we are the ones who have to choose to follow him. Correct? Okay. For if you love only those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? If you greet only those who greet you, what more are you doing than others? Don't the Gentiles do the same? So in other words, if you're only looking out for the people who look out for you, and I've seen it a million times, you get all these people posting on social media all the time, oh, if you ain't down with me, or you was never there for me, I ain't never going to be there for you, this kind of stuff. No, not at all. Be there for everybody, okay? Because he is there for us. If you only look out for your own family, I mean, evil does the same. Satan will watch out for his crew. How does that make him good? Right? Think about that.